Hello everyone. Today we will react to a video from Kurzgesagt. In a nutshell, it's about building a base in Mars is a terrible idea. Let's do it. Okay. Three, two, one, go.
To lonely islands and the high hills create a colony outside of Earth, maybe even form a planet into a blue home. Wait, before we can get to the nice future stuff, we first have to complete the second phase of colonization, creating a semi-permanent outpost to prepare the ground for a larger human presence. But doing so will be gruesome.
Okay, so intro, I'll start.
Even for an expansionist species like us, Mars is extreme. At first glance, Mars seems familiar. Polar ice caps, large valleys, liquid water under its surface, and a day barely longer than Earth's. The ideal place for us to go. Unfortunately, Mars is actually a cold, radioactive desert. Poisonous thing is impossible. Mars is awful. You almost certainly don't want to go there. The pioneers doing the hard work on Mars will have an intensely stressful life filled with incredibly challenging problems never encountered before.
Oh, so to land on Mars, the pioneers of the missions must work really hard to achieve the idea.
But there are plenty of people to do that work have the technology to enable it.
But the humans has a great passion doing something great, so we will never stop doing it. I think so.
Missions to Mars to scout out a good place for an outpost, store resources and equipment, and that there's already one that serves as a hub for Mars missions. The first major challenge for our outpost is the fact that Mars is very energy poor. Because of its distance from the Sun, solar power is only 40% as effective as on Earth. But even this weakened sunlight often obscured for days by enormous dust storms. Solar power alone will probably not be enough.
Okay, so if you want to stay longer on Mars, we need to do solar panels, right? But um, the power the solar power from the sun is maybe not enough to achieve high enough of light, enough solar power. So we would need some kinds of new technologies to think of building some base on Mars in the future.
Alternatives such as wind power and geothermal energy are also unfeasible as there's hardly any atmosphere and Mars's interior is much too cold. Initially, nuclear technology might be the only option. Since Mars doesn't have easily accessible radioactive elements, the nuclear fuel needs to come from Earth along with the reactor.
Oh, so they would build a nuclear reaction on Mars. Wow, what I think is really dangerous appearance, a dangerous, like they would need much preparations before doing that. I think nuclear technology is definitely is not a safety power for humans nearby, and we need to use it as careful as possible.
If we do for our solar outpost for the first few years. Unfortunately, all that energy won't be very useful if we can't breathe. Mars's atmosphere is only 1% as dense as Earth's and mostly made up of CO2. So our habitats need to be pressurized and filled with an artificial atmosphere made of nitrogen and oxygen, which comes with more problems. corners and flat walls are weak points, so the habitats will have rounded and smooth shapes to handle the stress of great pressure differences between the interior and exterior. The airlocks need to be very airtight and work perfectly every time. Without an extensive magnetosphere or a dense atmosphere, half of all radiation coming from space reaches the ground. A person on the surface would be subjected to 50 times the radiation that they would be on Earth.
Okay, so I think that the radiation that humans can get from staying on Mars is definitely much higher than we stay on Earth because the magnetosphere of the Mars is definitely not strong enough uh, to get rid of the sun's solar wind, I think. Because when I study physics, I learned that the Earth has a really huge magnetic field which protect us from the sun radiation. Yeah, so that's the Earth would definitely not get much like for example, if solar winds can reach the planet, it would destroy the electricity facilities around the world. That would be devastated.
3 years of radiation imposed on NASA astronauts for their entire career. This increases cancer risks significantly. To prevent that, we could shield our habitats with a thick layer of frozen CO2 that can be harvested directly from the atmosphere. Covering the dry ice with a meter of dirt would further increase the level of protection. Sadly, this means almost no windows. From the inside, most living spaces will be windowless tunnels. From the outside, they'll look like burial mounds. There's still not that.
Oh, okay. So I think they will build no window space that's covered with dust and sands on Mars. So I think this would somehow protect little radiation from the sun, but that would mean that we can't see anything outside of the base. It's really boring.
Called the radiation, but reduce just survivable for long periods of time. It won't, however, protect anyone who ventures outside. So remote-controlled robots will be used for routine work on the surface while our crew stays inside. Staying inside is a good idea for another reason: Mars dust. It's much finer than dust on Earth, so it could find its way into the gears or electronics of our machines. Because it's also very dry, it's electrostatically charged, sticking to everything, like spacesuits. It would be impossible to avoid carrying lots of Mars dust into our habitat.
Oh, so this is another reason why we must build base on Mars. Well, Mars there are lots of sand and dust which flows every day on the planet, which if humans decide to stay here, uh, they must get distracted, and they must got covered by sand and dust every day. That would also means that when um, electronic or machines, gears do experiments, that it would get covered by dust and sand, which lead to the results that it would destroy some of the most important parts of the machine. Well, I think we must find possible way to avoid it.
And into the lung of our. To make this even worse, Mars is soil filled with very thick perchlorate salts. Constant exposure could be deadly. This problem can still be overcome, though. Spacesuits, for example, could be made in a way that they never truly enter the base, but stay attached to the outside of the habitats. Okay, great. Now we've safely isolated humans in terms of energy and air, and protected them from cancer, we just need to feed them. Water is easy to come by if a settlement is positioned near the Martian poles with their thick layers of ice. Growing food is a different kind of challenge, though. Mars's soils are alkaline and lack the vital nitrogen compounds that plants need to grow. Before we can grow anything, we will have to decontaminate the soil, which is difficult and expensive. Then the soil can be fertilized using recycled biological waste. All of this will take a lot of time and is very energy intensive. So we might use aquaponics to raise fish and plants together, making the astronauts' diets more varied and tasty at the same time.
So, if humans want to grow some vegetables on the planet, they need sands and desert. They need land to grow, so they would get those from the planet itself. But that would mean it would affect the planet in a different kind of way. So astronauts decide to use like a big machine which will produce the plants. I think it will build it would build automatically, and I think would be more effective than produced by our hands themselves. It would definitely much more cheaper. No, I think we would definitely benefits a lot from this kind of produced food because we would stay there for definitely a very long time.
This would be like ecological.
Oops.
All of these things don't solve one fundamental problem, though. Mars has only 38% of Earth's surface gravity, which could cause muscle wasting, bone loss, and cardiovascular problems. While this might be solved in the future by setting up rotating living spaces, for now our crew has to live with low gravity and exercise a lot to slow the degradation down. The crews will probably have to rotate every few years, after being stuck indoors in tight spaces without windows, with the same people, performing the same routines day in, day out, with little contact from the outside world and a lot to worry about.
Oh, so if we know Mars has a little gravities, which is not definitely not as strong as the Earth gravities. So if we don't practice ourselves for a really long time, the detrimental effects will happen to our bodies, which leads to health issues and health difficulties. So scientists are planning ways to they are planning way for astronauts to practice exercise every day in rotating rooms somewhat.
Antarctic science green staff, they will undergo intense psychological screening to make sure they're mentally resilient enough to handle this lifestyle for several years. Establishing the first real infrastructure on Mars will be extremely taxing work that only a group of very determined and competent people can do. Luckily, we have enough of these on Earth. And there you have it, a small Mars base that will survive for at least a few decades, as long as it's getting a constant supply of resources, parts, nuclear fuel, and crews from Earth. Unfortunately, Mars and Earth are separated by millions of kilometers and orbital periods that leave only a narrow travel window every 2 years. If there's an emergency in the colony, Earth wouldn't be able to help until the next travel window opens. Helpers may arrive on a planet filled with corpses. Settling Mars will be the toughest challenge we have ever faced. It will be gruesome work to establish the infrastructure we need. But we're stubborn, and we like extreme challenges. If we push through phase 2 of colonization, anything is possible. Cities in the dark Martian night, a hub for travel
big
between the
IT,
planets,
big
industries setting foot in
application.
orbit, terraforming, a true multiplanetary future. Going to Mars is hard, but worth it. And if we're lucky, we might be around long enough to see it happening and cheer on the people who take on these challenges for the benefit of us all.
Oh, that's a
Figuring
really
out
great
complex
video.
stuff is one of the best feelings ever, especially if you don't have to do it all by yourself. Our friends from Brilliant can help you out with that part. Brilliant is a problem-solving website.
I think it's the end of the video. The advertisement is just something that we don't really care about, right? Okay, so thank you for watching my first reaction videos on YouTube. Well, I hope you definitely achieve something from my reaction. If I don't do something right, you can give me some comments so that I can improve myself every day, every time, because I'm just a bit beginners in this aspect. So thank you for listening and watching. Bye bye.